Okay, so we've been going through this. Okay, so we've been talking about this, and you said, parasites can live in your body. Parasites live off, there's something that lives off another organism. They can kill you. And you gave some good examples. Ticks, fleas, lice, tapeworms, those are all good. And you've nailed a lot of stuff about parasites. And today, I will warn you, frankly, is gross. This is going to be disgusting. I love the disgusting parts of biology. Okay, so, in a nutshell, parasitism, a parasitic relationship. One species is harmed, another species benefits. And the individual of the species that is benefiting, that's the parasite. And it's feeding off of another individual, and that is the host. So, one species is being harmed. It is definitely, absolutely being harmed. Anybody here ever had a parasite on them? Anybody had a tick or a leech? Anybody had a dog with fleas, and if they're in the house, they'll bite your ankles? Ugh. It's terrible. So, let's talk about ticks. Let's have a tick talk. It's my favorite. Thank you for bearing with me. So, what do ticks want from you? Just a little tiny bit of blood. I mean, they want
What did you keep feeding
this much blood. No, they get about so big and they drop off.
The ones on my dog are
yeah, they get pretty big and then they drop off and they grow up using your dog's blood as food. And actually, when they're really full of blood and you pull them off your dog, you can smash them between two. I mean, they look like an overripe grape, and they smash, and it's just this it's about a tablespoon of blood.
I would just burn them.
We'll talk about how to don't do that.
No, I don't.
Bad idea.
Them like that. I take them off and then burn them.
Oh, just smash them. Whatever. I don't care how you dispose of them. They're harming someone. They are harming their. Yeah, you should kill them. When you remove them, you should kill them because otherwise they'll just go on to reproduce.
Because people say if you put smoke on them.
Okay. So, we have definite harm occurring. How much harm is a teaspoon of blood? Can you spare a teaspoon of blood?
Yeah.
Of course you can. You can spare a teaspoon of blood. It's not going to kill you. But, here's what I want you to consider. You worked hard to make that blood. Dang it! That's your blood. You're entitled to it. You built those red blood cells out of calories that you consumed. Nobody's got a right to that blood except you. There's a cost if something is taking your blood. Even if it's little, there's a cost. Now, could enough ticks kill you? Yeah, sure. And I don't know if anybody's ever had, with barn cats very often, you'll get one poor little weakling kitten who gets set upon by fleas, and they can actually kill a small animal. I had a kitten many, many years ago that died, and it was mostly because of flea infestation. They were just covered, and I mean, it was really sad. Every little teeny tiny flea is taking their little teeny tiny bit of blood. It's enough to weaken the animal. And yeah, they are. They're bloodsuckers. And once you're about so weak, you're more prone to die from lots of things. And you can also die from anemia. You can die from not having enough blood. Because remember, again, you made those blood cells. That kitten made those blood cells. It took energy for your body to make those blood cells. So yeah, you're being harmed. The tick is benefiting. The mosquito is benefiting. The leech is benefiting. The flea is benefiting. Hold on. Now, somebody said already, well, they can kill you. Anybody here ever die of a tick bite? You're all still here, so obviously not. Okay. Parasites can kill you. Do they usually? No. Well, we're going to talk about tapeworms. We're going to talk all about tapeworms. We're going to talk about pinworms. We're going to talk about all kinds of intestinal worms, and we will have images. Like I said, today's going to be gross. Okay, so Parasites don't usually kill their hosts. Parasites typically do not kill their host. So why don't parasites kill their host? Yeah. If I'm sucking a little tiny bit of your blood every day, it's in my best interest to keep you alive as long as possible. Because I can get nutrients from you. If I'm living in your guts, like a tapeworm, and I'm taking a little bit of all the nutrients that you bring in, it's in my best interests to keep you alive as long as possible. I don't want you to die. I know which side my bread is buttered on. My bread being your nutrients or your blood or your flesh. Parasites don't want their hosts to die. They want their hosts to stay alive. Keep giving me nutrients. It's in their best interests. So, there are multiple kinds of parasites. And you guys gave some good examples at the beginning. Fleas and ticks and leeches and tapeworms. So let's talk about the two major categories of parasites. Two big, broad categories. Parasites can live on top of their host, on the outside of their host, without ever going into the host's body. And these are ectoparasites. Ecto meaning outside. Fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, lice, leeches, mites, those are all ectoparasites. I don't know if bots are considered ecto or endoparasites because they do kind of go into the body, but not very far in. Oh, yeah. Yep, and the little head sticks out. I'll tell you the easy way to get those out. So this is a little deer tick. They burrow their entire head down under the skin, and you get this redness and this swelling. Dog ticks, like I said, I've gotten lots of ticks in my lifetime. Dog ticks don't seem to burrow as deeply in my experience, or wood ticks, the big fat ones. So, if that's a deer tick, a dog tick might be this big. I mean, actually, it might even be bigger. One is like 1/10 the size of the other. They're teeny, teeny, teeny. And you just see a little dark speck moving across your hand or your arm or up your shirt, and you go, oh, that's a tick. Real prevalent in the spring. If you're out in the woods every day, if you're clearing brush, you're going to run into them. If you have a dog who goes out in fields and woods and comes back in the house, your dog can bring them in on their fur and then drop them, or the tick drops, and then you have ticks in your house. Interestingly enough, ticks like to climb to the highest point they can find. So once they get onto you, especially dog ticks, I don't see this as much with deer ticks, they want to climb up. So you will very often find them, climbing up in the hairline. So after I've been out a lot, I'll run my fingers over my scalp. If you, yeah, it's good to check. And now I see lots of you doing this. You're getting all itchy. But the ticks won't kill you. Now, ticks can carry, and you talked about, I've heard we shouldn't burn them off, and blah, 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 because they might vomit their stomach contents. Ticks can carry diseases. So they have parasites that live in them. And one of the big parasites that lives in deer ticks is a bacteria that causes Lyme disease. And Lyme disease is pretty serious. Lyme disease won't kill you either, but it will make you really sick if it's not treated. And it can make you miserable for the rest of your life, actually. I've had some friends who've had undiagnosed Lyme that went for years. And once you've been undiagnosed and untreated for years, you're going to be lucky if you ever actually clear your symptoms. You may just be managing the disease for the rest of your life. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. So, okay, we've got these ectoparasites, leeches and fleas and ticks, so many more that we could talk about. But let's turn to the other big category of parasites. Well, I can answer that question. It can get infected. It can get infected. Eventually, it will probably work its way out, just like a splinter. If you've ever had a splinter that you left in, and eventually you get a pussy little pocket, and you can shoot it right out on a pocket of pus. Eventually, tick heads will supposedly do that. I suspect that I have one behind my knee that I've had since October, and I keep thinking I should go get it looked at, and I keep not doing it. You know, what are they going to do? I mean, your body can form a little capsule around it. Here are the options. It can work its way out like a splinter. Your body can form a little capsule around it. You know, working its way out, it becomes infected and it gets pussy and you pop it. Your body encapsulates it, puts tissue around it. Or number 3, and I don't know if this is even possible, your body absorbs it. You know, better to just remove it well the first time. But I will say, deer ticks especially, wood ticks, I can remove a wood tick like a pro. I could do it at 2 in the morning, half asleep, one eye open, one hand tied behind my back, no coffee. And I can get that puppy out, and you will never know you had a wood tick. Deer ticks, as good as I am, and I'm tooting my own horn here, I am good at tick removal. Deer ticks, she said, scratching her head, are really tough. Are they what? You know what? They're everywhere. Any place that's good deer habitat is good tick habitat. They're called deer tick because deer are their primary hosts. Deer tick. Yes. I'm hyphenating. Deer are their primary host. But you know what? Deer's a mammal, you're a mammal. You've got nice, warm mammal blood. They'll take your blood, no problem. Yes?
They were crazy yesterday.
Okay, so we can also find parasites that live inside their hosts, and these are the endoparasites. Endo meaning inside. Tapeworms. Some bacteria are considered endoparasites. Roundworms. A lot of dogs get roundworms. A lot of barn cats get worms. When I had barn cats, I would worm them once a year. You just get over-the-counter worming medication, and once a year you worm everybody, and they're better. And then pinworms. These are pinworms. We're going to talk about pinworms. Oh, good. Then you'll already have some foreknowledge. In the last class, they begged me not to, and I had mercy, but there's a great YouTube video with pinworms and a colonoscopy. So if you guys are brave, we'll pull it up. So these are things that live inside their host's body. These things cannot live outside their host's body. They have to live inside a host. If you put a tapeworm on the floor here, a full-sized total tapeworm, and nobody walks along and eats it, one way or another, it's going to die.
How does it get in the body?
Oh, we'll talk about that. Talk about tapeworm transmission. So they cannot live outside a host. And a lot of them are really pretty specialized. They can only live in one host and only one part of a host's body. So which of those is more... So remember, we have those old categories of specialist, generalist. Endoparasites, more generalist or more specialist? Endoparasites are actually a little bit more specialized. Number one, they can't live outside a body. They have to have a body, so that's already a restriction on where they can live. An ectoparasite, something like a flea or a tick or a mosquito, a lice, ticks, leeches, ticks, mites, ticks, all about ticks. Ticks can hang out in the woods. They can use deer blood, they can use human blood, they can use dog blood, cat blood, bobcat blood, rabbit blood. You're a warm-blooded creature? Sure, I'll take your blood. Leeches. Who here has ever had a leech? Really? You people have homework. You need to go barefoot, get into some shallow, stagnant pond water, and don't you come out until you've got leeches.
I've had them all over my body before.
Yeah. On your body. Yeah.
Did you feel them like bite you?
Mm-mm. No, they actually have a little, if you've ever had stitches and they give you a shot of lidocaine to numb it up before they stitch you, leeches and ticks all basically release a little chemical that numbs you up when they bite you. So, why would that be an evolutionary advantage? Because
they can't feel it, we don't know they're
right, you don't know they're on there. And if you're not paying attention, they could feed and drop off, and you'd never know you got bitten. So yeah, the ones that when they bite you, you go, ow! They didn't live to pass on their genes because somebody smashed them between two rocks. Okay, so ectoparasites, not all that specialized. They're a little bit less specialized. They're more generalists. Endoparasites are a little bit more specialized. They're more on the specialist end of things because, number one, they can't live outside a host. Number two, a lot of them are very host-specific. I believe pinworms are host-specific to humans. I have this nice fish here, got it open. I know a lot of you fish or have fished or have eaten fish in the past, and you may never do it again. But there are tapeworms that affect fish. The tapeworms that affect fish can't live in a human gut. That's nice to know. Now, the tapeworms that affect dogs and cats, they can live in a human gut. We are more closely related to dogs and cats. We're all mammals. We're all warm-blooded. So there are endoparasites that can go back and forth, but a lot of parasites are pretty specialized. Now, if you're a real super specialist parasite, whoa, that's hard to read. Sorry. Let's just change the background. If you're a specialist parasite and you can only live in one host and your host becomes extinct, what happens to you? You die. You're done. So things that are generalists tend to survive better. But that said, there are plenty of specialist parasites. There are plenty of specialists all over the place. So let's talk a little bit about pinworms. These delightful small creatures. Who here ever has contact with small children? Kindergartners, first graders, 3-year-olds. I have a 3-year-old at home. You have a 3-year-old you're living with. You see a 3-year-old all the time. So, let me tell you about pinworms. Pinworms are about this long. Big enough you can see them. They're, centimeter long. They're white. They're wiggly. And they have the most fantastic strategy. Because remember, what is biology about? Sex and not dying. Spreading your genes around. I mean, really, in a lot of biology, as long as you've already spread your genes around, you can do, kick off. So pinworms live in the human gut. And they actually live at the very end of the human gut. We're talking about the rectum here. This is where the poop comes out. And they live pretty near the anus. That is the butthole, the actual hole where the poop comes out. Yes, we have absolutely no shame at my house. I'm watching reactions because I think you're all hilarious. Okay, so the female pinworm mates. She's full of these nice eggs that are going to hatch into her thousands of babies. And she has to somehow find a way to get her host to spread those eggs.
I take it they poop them out.
Oh no, it's better than that. So she's ready to lay her eggs, and you know what she does? She crawls out of the anus. Not kidding. And she does a little dance all around the edge of the anus while she's laying her eggs. Did I warn you that today was going to be gross? Oh, you can feel it. Because do you know what it does? It makes your butt itch. And what do little kids do when their butt itches? They stick their hands down their pants and they scratch their butt. And now where are the eggs?
Like, do they only do this when they're little? Like little kids?
No. I got pinworms as an adult. I'll tell you all about it. Yeah. Never take a cookie from a child. This is the moral of my story. Do not accept food from small children, especially small children who can't seem to sit still, who do a lot of this. There's a reason they're wiggling. They're wiggling because their butt itches. And And there's a pretty good chance that their butt itches because there are pinworms dancing around their anus.
Yeah, I'm done touching mine, I feel.
Yep. Children, pots of germs and parasites.
Using like gloves whenever you give me
Huh? Yeah, you get rid of them. It's easy. So it's estimated that in terms of the whole entire world, globally, about 80% of the human population at any one time is infected with pinworms. Now you all are living in a really weird time and place. Do you appreciate how strange the time and place you're living in is? Number one, you have access to more calories than you could ever use. You can go to the grocery store and buy, a bazillion packages of ramen noodles and eat all the calories you want. You don't have to chase it down and kill it with your own teeth. You don't have to go dig it up in the forest. It's easy to get all the calories you need. And for the most part, in the industrialized Western world, you're living with good sanitation. You have flush toilets. You're not pooping in a pit behind the house and then potentially walking in fecal material. You're probably not using human waste on your garden plants in a raw form. And that's kind of unusual throughout human history. Throughout human history, and in a lot of places still on the planet, humans are living in very different circumstances than we are. So yes, on the whole globe, about 80% of humans, yes, and everybody's hand sanitizing, I see that. It will not help you with the pinworm eggs. You got to physically wash and scrub and use a nail brush to get the pinworm eggs out from under your fingernails. Do I sound like the voice of experience? I will tell you my story. I was a camp counselor. So, we're living in this weird, pretty sanitary world. We don't have to deal with a whole lot of parasites. Now, yes, I was a camp counselor. I was 19 or 20 years old, and I went off to camp one summer, and we had kids ages 5 to 12, and they're cute, and they're wonderful, and they're adorable, and they're sweet, and you eat all your meals with them and stuff, and they hand you cookies! And the wiggly ones hand you cookies, too. And I came home from camp, and after a few weeks after I got home from camp, I realized something was wrong! Your butt itches like crazy. And you show up at your family doctor, who's known you since you were 10, and you say, I think I have pinworms. And they say, okay, here's some Vermex. And it's a real simple, it's just like worming a cat or a dog. It's one pill. You take one pill, it kills all the pinworms in your system. Your underwear are actually full of dead pinworms the next morning. Yes. So do you guys want to see the video from YouTube? No. You can look it up on your own time. The test for, because kids very often do get pinworms. In the Western industrialized world where we have good access to sanitation, adults don't usually get pinworms. But small children, you'll get an infestation in like a preschool or a daycare or a first grade classroom or a kindergarten classroom. Anybody here an aide in the elementary school? Anybody quitting? Or just like not getting near the kids anymore? Yeah, don't take cookies. So, yeah. Oh, everything itches. Just thinking about it's enough to make you itch. So, if you're a parent or an aunt or, living with small children, if you have a kid who's itching a lot and who's squirming, who can't sit still, the classic test to see if they have pinworm is this. You wait until they're asleep. You go in after they're asleep. You pull down the diaper and you shine a flashlight on their butt. And if they have pinworms, you will see the pinworms. You will see little white worms on the butt. And then you call the pediatrician and you say, hi, we have pinworms. And the pediatrician says, here's some Vermex. Now, if your child has pinworms or your niece or your nephew who's living with you and spending a lot of time with you has pinworms, they typically tell the whole family to take Vermex. Because once the 3-year-old or the 5-year-old or the 6-year-old in the house has pinworms, they have probably put pinworm eggs on every surface in your house. Sorry. I love Parasite Day. Oh, look at. Oh, that's so pretty. So yeah, parasites make a living at being good at what they do. And mama pinworms are excellent at what they do. Now, here's the next part. So see, this was my second public service because I have now told you how to not get pinworms and how if you get pinworms, you just go to the doctor and you say, hi, I got pinworms, and they give you Vermex and it's all good. So now, you're welcome. You may thank me at some point in the future. Here, okay. So, there's an arms race with parasites and species too, in terms of parasites get better, defenses get better, parasites get better. It's this escalation that happens. So, how do you get tapeworms? Tapeworms are really cool because, so they have this little head with hooks in it, and that's what hooks into the wall of the intestine, and their mouth is inside those hooks, and they just suck nutrients out of your intestinal wall. But behind that, they're called a segmented worm, because they're made up of all these little segments. And they're kind of colorless. And what happens is they have reproductive equipment. Like a lot of organisms have specialized areas of the body where the reproductive equipment is. Tapeworms have reproductive equipment throughout. So they lay eggs. She found one of the birthday kids. I'm so happy. In each segment. And as these segments grow out and travel back the body, by the time they get to the end here, the eggs are ripe and they're ready for a new host. And then those little end pieces just fall off. And they're called proglottids, and a full, fat, juicy proglottid with ripe eggs in it is called a gravid proglottid. So I remember walking down a path behind one of my barn cats, and it looked like she had little pieces of rice stuck to her butt.
I thought one time my cat.
They're not rice. Okay, have a good day. I hope you can sleep well. Don't go near small children.